I'm looking forward to talk about this topic, and I hope that you are looking forward to learning about it. I want to start off with introducing myself. My name is Thomas Koop. I have a background in industrial management, and I'm an enthusiast of asset data management. And because of that, I've joined asset data management software company SEIA Systems a couple of years ago. And since then, I've been learning a lot about the industry and what's been happening. I want to share some of those lessons today and also how it relates to our software Plan 4D. If you have any questions during this session, do not hesitate to just drop us a question in the chat box and we'll try to get back at you with an answer in a timely manner. Possibly we'll try to answer it in the webinar. If that is not possible, we'll get back to you after the webinar and make sure that your questions are answered. Well, I want to focus on the great diversity of people that are here today. We see people from all over the world with all kinds of different positions. And it's just so interesting to see that so many different kind of roles and functions are interested in the same topic. And that's because you all have one thing in common. You saw the title of this webinar, and it basically says, let your data drive your decisions. And in order to do so, you need to make sure that your data is accurate. And so today we're going to be focused on accurate asset data because we are all about that asset and how it can be optimized and how we can make it more efficient, more effective, and all from our own perspectives, but also from a company-wide perspective. That's why you need one version of the truth, not just from your department or from the whole company. Because what we see is that a lot of companies do not have accurate asset data. They do not have one version of the truth. They have different departments working on one asset with different kinds of insights and different kinds of softwares. All of these softwares are not talking together, not cooperating the way they should be. And that means that you'll end up with a whole set of different versions of the truth, meaning that before you can start doing anything, you have to check if your version of the truth is accurate. Well, that's what we want to focus on today. We want to focus on that false sense of being data-driven that a lot of organizations have, because we do know that you all have that intrinsic need to use your data. Data has become so much more important than the last decades, and we're all trying to grasp and reap the benefits that these data-driven approaches promise. But we should first recognize and trying to set a standard for what it means to actually be data-driven. What does it mean to be truly data-driven, and what can that mean for your organization? Well, we're going to highlight what a data-centric approach does in this whole thing of being data-driven. Because being data-centric is essentially the only way you're going to end up with that one version of the truth. Well, on our path to becoming more data-driven, we see that a lot of companies are actually taking the same steps. These steps will indeed get you to a certain level where you think, hey, I gained something. But what you initially set out to do was gaining the achievability to be a data-driven decision maker. Well, what every department basically does is that they focus on their unique asset activities that are important to their department. They're trying to capture the data from all those asset activities in their own system. They are going to use that system to provide them with powerful tools and powerful insights. And then they feel like, all right, we've made 2 steps forward. I think we're there. I think we're truly data-driven now. And I'm not here to say that taking those steps is wrong. I'm just saying here, you're not there yet. Because why would you only look at those specific asset activities that are important to your department? Assets are not something that are just important to your department, but are important to the whole organization. You should always try to consider more than just your activities. Because if every department considers the activities of other departments as well, this will actually gain you a lot of benefits. You will get synergy from the different activities that the different departments are doing. So if you're trying to capture all of the information in your own system, and another department is trying to do the same, you're actually not creating those synergies. You're just sub-optimizing your department. And I'm all about optimization. I love it. It's great. You can wake me up from Thomas, let's do some optimization, but let's do it together because it becomes so much more powerful. So one of the issues of sub-optimizing your department is not just that you're sub-optimizing, not optimizing the whole, but also if every department is capturing different essences of an asset, but also capturing the same information of an asset, but are not talking to each other, you are not sure how reliable your data is. Because if you all have versions of the truth, some of them ought to be wrong. If one of these versions is going to be updated, it implicates that every other version is outdated. So are you truly data-driven after taking these steps? I think the answer is clear. It's probably no. Have you made improvements? Sure, but how confident are you when you see that data in your own system that it presents you the whole version of the truth instead of just a part of it? Well, the fact of the matter, these 4 steps will not take you to be a data-driven organization. These 4 steps will allow you to become application-driven. You will be able to grasp and reap all the benefits that those applications offer, but you are not doing what we set out to do. We want to become a data-driven organization because we realize that data is the only kind of information that's unique to your organization and will allow you to make decisions that are especially powerful for your particular situation. So if you're just grasping the applications and the information that is in that specific application, you are only touching the surface of the asset data lake. The whole environment where your complete version of the truth is captured is not in a single silo. It's what we do together that makes sense. So if you're only working with one version of the data, you're not only unsure about if this is complete, you're also not certain if this is the latest version. So before you start to do anything, you will have to check, is this the correct data? Is this right? And this is not just, my logic. I hope it makes sense, but we actually researched this. Different customers, we found that they spend between 2 and 4 hours a day, depending on the kind of function and the kind of department they're working in, on verifying and collecting asset data. Well, 2 to 4 hours a day, that's a lot. And of course, with a data-centric way of working, you're not going to take all that time away, but let's try to reduce it to, let's say, 15 to half an hour. That's all you need, like checking your email. I just want to know the latest email. I just want to know the latest asset data. What do I need to, make my decisions? Because what we don't want is for data to be trapped in departmental silos, something that you should be very familiar with if you do not have a data-centric approach. If you do have one, you're probably on your way there. We're all on our way there, and we can all help each other. And you will see and recognize that the more you accept this data-centric approach, the more you realize where parts of your organization are lacking. Because if they are lacking, it means that the data is scattered over different places, that you will have to retrieve every bit of data. You're going to spend 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, just trying to collect all the different data points. And then you're going to bring it together just to make one package for one decision. But if you were to adopt a data-centric approach, you do not have to collect those packages every time, because everything will readily be available for you. So I want to focus now on the results of what we just talked about. In the end, it just comes down to this. You're going to spend more money, more time to make decisions if you do not have a data-centric approach. But if you want to save money, save time, and make better quality decisions, because the more and more accurate information you have, the better your decisions. That's all what data-driven means, trying to improve the decision-making process. Well, I want to use a nice comparison to something that you might understand. I'm pretty sure a lot of your people are already on track for the data-driven approach, but let's try to simplify it and make sure that we all have the same baseline. A lot of companies, a lot of organizations, a lot of departments are all working with their own unique software systems. These systems have been bought for a specific purpose, and you're feeding data into it and retrieving data from it. Well, as you can see, In this picture, all of these different applications use their own data pool. These data pools are rarely communicating with each other. Even though they contain similar data, usually, they're not communicating. And per definition, duplicates are not to be trusted if they're not connected. Well, you can see that the two bowls on your left, I believe, are closely together and actually share some fish, share some data. But that's just something that's not too structured enough. Like if you make one update in one bowl and you have to wait for the data to be transferred to your other system, it's going to be too late. There's so many possibilities where that data is already outdated at one point. You want all the data to be coming from one centralized place. And that's what this resembles. No longer are we using bowls, we're using one data lake. And your data might be structured in different ways, might be having different names as well, but it's something you need to learn to deal with. If you don't, you're going to be fishing in the data lake and retrieving the data that you know, but leaving every bit of data that you don't know in the lake. So that would not solve your problem. Going from a bowl to a lake is only beneficial if it actually gives you extra information. Like, if you don't know the possibilities of having a data lake, just having a data lake won't solve it. As you can see with the fishermen on your right, I believe, they are not catching anything. They do not know where they're looking for. And all of that is because they do not have one structured way of retrieving and storing data. Having a data lake is great, but understanding how your data is structured in that lake, what kind of data is related to other kind of data, that's the only way you always catch what you will find. And that's what we're all about. Data centricity is not about just putting the data in a data lake. It's about putting the data central. No longer are your applications or your fishing rods the driving factors, but your data is. Meaning that every time you throw out your fishing rod, you will catch everything that you need because that's all related. But the only way you understand that if it's structured in such a way that you can actually use it. That's where data becomes information. Data in a lake is just that. When it becomes useful for you, that's the information you need for your data-driven decision-making process. So that's the difference, really. It's not just going from a bowl to a lake. It's going from a bowl to a lake that's structured in such a way that you'll catch all the fish you need every time you want to. And not by retrieving it one from one, but retrieving it all at once. So that's what we're all about. It's you need a true solution. You need a approach to manage your asset data in such a way that the data is central to it all. All of it is only relevant if you're going to do it on a company-wide scale. If you're just doing it in your department, yes, there are some benefits. You will probably be able to combine and create some synergy from the different systems you are using within your department, which can be actual software systems, which can be file structures, and in our experience, Excel sheets also, and physical documents. You can combine the value of all of that in one system to get one source of truth. But it's even more valuable if you do so on a organization-wide scale. And if you have achieved that, if the data is central and if it's all integrated in such a way, you can ensure that all of your systems that are linked to that data-centric approach model are actually up to date at all times. Because if I update something in system A, it will be verified through the model, and system B will therefore hold the same information. Well, the concept of data centricity is, like I said, just putting it in a data lake is not going to help you that much. You need to know what you're looking for. And the way to get that is by having a future-proof data model. Future-proof means you can add any data you will need in the future. And the data model aspect of it makes sure that it's structured in such a way that you can actually retrieve the data whenever you need to, without having to write difficult queries or do full projects just to retrieve your data. You want it and you want it now. The value of this is that your data will no longer be trapped in applications. Now it will be secured in a data model. So your applications may come and go, but your asset data and your data model will stay forever. And asset data is just as important as your actually physical assets. Because how can you make decisions if you do not know the information? Having the physical assets, that's how you generate the value. But how to optimize that value, how to use that value to your best interest, that's where you need asset data. Well, we would not present you with all of these findings if we do not tell you how we came to these conclusions. We actually have a software solution called Plan4D. Plan4D allows you to create that data model and link all of these systems together in such a way that you reap all the benefits that we just discussed. Working data-centrically, and also having a data-driven decision-making approach. Now, where it all starts is having a common denominator. All of your data in all of your different systems is described in different ways. In system A, you can call it pump 68. And in system B, you can call it dash 12 XA pump. Well, these are very different. And if you do not translate it in the right way, if you do not have a link that understands that these are actually the same systems, you're going to be working with a data lake that just replicates the different bowls. That's not what you want. You want to make sure that your data model understands when you're talking about the same thing, no matter what kind of name you're using. Once you have that, you can align all the information that's linked to those specific assets or lines or tag numbers, essentially. And that starts with the basic specs, your PNIDs or PFDs, because you want to know how all your assets are connected, how it works. And you also want the 3D, because the 3D model will allow you to actually recognize everything at every point. And once you have that, that's your base point. You can then start connecting it with all the kinds of different systems that you're using it. And all those systems will recognize your assets because they recognize either the tag that you define for them, they recognize the precision in the PNID, you know how it's connected, or they recognize the geographical location point that's in your 3D model. Well, having that is a lot of work, but it's also a lot of value. It makes sure that your data model is now secure for the future. If you decide to use a new kinds of software, odds are you're going to use the software with great success for, let's say, 5 years. But that's the average. After 5 years, you might transfer a different kind of software. What you want is that everything that you learned in those 5 years should be captured in your data model. And that's not just for one kind of software, it's just for all your software. It should always be aligned in one database. Because what we're dealing with a lot of companies is that they're all looking at the same asset. They're all looking at the same tank or whatever you're working with. And they're using their own sub-optimized processes to work with that tank. But what that results in is there's a lot of time in verifying data because they're not sharing the information in an efficient way. The only way it's now integrated is using a manager who escalates it all. Well, we want to emphasize that having a manager who does that can have a lot of value, but he is just like us, or like you, human. And there's only so much that a human can do. And therefore, we want to make sure that management focuses on strategic tasks and that data integration is now covered by your one database model, where the asset is still central in it all. We're all looking at the same asset, but we're now sharing information. We're now benefiting from any lessons learned from another department. We're also benefiting from all the knowledge that they already verified. I'll make sure that you save so much time doing so. And your quality, the quality of your decisions will actually go up. All right, I got a short video for you guys. It's about Plan4D and the way of working. I want to ask you guys to click.
We understand that working with so many different data sources from different disciplines and applications not only takes valuable time away from you, but it can also be very costly. Most companies use multiple applications to access their data. These applications, however, uses different tag numbers for the same asset, causing them to be constantly outdated and misaligned. We solve this by giving every asset a unique location tag number, which we match and link throughout other applications. Let's take a gate valve, for example, which has been identified by a unique location tag number. we see that this tag is also used to identify the same gate valve but in a 3D model. When you open up the data-centric software solution, you can quickly locate and visualize this gate valve in 3D because of the tag number. Now, if you're working with 2D models and would like to see the PNID of the gate valve, you can easily do so, as it has also been identified in the software solution with the same unique location tag number. And you can move swiftly from a 3D model to PNID and vice versa. With the unique location tag number, you can guarantee that every piece of data surrounding this gate valve is up to date and correct. Because of the unique location tag number, when a change is made in one part of the data, this change is updated throughout every application that also uses this particular gate valve. By identifying this particular gate valve with its own unique tag number, you are assured that you and others from different departments will be collaborating on the same data and asset. Whether it be in 1D, 2D, or 3D, you are ensured that the data you use in your work activities are always up to date and available anytime you need it.
All right, what did you just watch? We just saw that the way that we work is having a data-centric setup. We generate everything live from one database. That includes your PNIDs and 3D model. That makes sure that every point in your 2D model and 3D model can actually be linked to your other data. That means that every other system that you have can be linked in one source of truth, one data model. And because we're working with an open data model, we can actually use every kind of data source that you have and integrate it with ours, making sure that you have one version of the truth, one data model that incorporates all the information that you need about the data, about the asset data, that is. Well, you don't have to take our word for it. We also ask a customer of ours just to make a short testimonial.
Hi, I'm Steven Salislak. I'm a senior designer for LBC Tank Terminals in Antwerp. I'm based in Belgium, and I've been with the company for almost 3 years. LBC Tank Terminals is a global provider of responsible logistics solutions. We own and operate midstream and downstream facilities for bulk liquid storage, from ship unloading over intermediate tank storage and filling operations such as truck, train, and drum filling. My company is part of the process industry and operates in the segment of tank storage. We were faced with scattered, outdated, double, and missing information. The main challenge was how to reduce the information to single source information, this to facilitate information management. Intuitively, people knew that our original way of working was time and money consuming. And that's how the awareness grew that work processes needed to be streamlined. Part of that was implemented on an operational level, but the decision for a global approach was a more recent one. We started out producing construction drawings based upon centralized as-built information like 3D laser scans, and from there on over to 3D modeling. As far as needed resources was concerned, my suggestion was to split the project into small sub-projects which could be integrated in the budget of a related CAPEX project. Over time, these small improvements would yield and will yield critical mass. The breaking point came when I was personally confronted with loss of assets data and 3D models because of its incompatibility with later releases of that CAD software. Now, being data-centric, Plant 4D would solve the assets data and 3D model loss we had been experiencing. Quick implementation of Plant 4D was possible in areas where we already had 3D scans. There's 3 things to look out for. Convincing people to go for a global approach is simply not easy. Then, once you've implemented, you need the necessary resources to keep it as built. And as far as brownfield projects are concerned, 3D scans are indispensable. Recent projects that come to mind where we have implemented Plant 4D are mini hazard risk analysis of a hot water circuit protecting breather valves in our HMD extension project. A second one is wall thickness measurements inspection data connected to point cloud database and 4D database info. A third one is the VAS project, quick feasibility engineering study together with 3D modeling and budget estimates based upon existing point cloud data.
All right. Let's give it another moment. Well, we just watched a video, a testimonial of our customer explaining how they went from a scattered situation where data was all over the place and where data was actually lost due to having old CAD systems that were out of use to having one single source of truth. We saw that it takes a lot of work to get the complete plan, of course, in one system. And he distributed in such a way that it can be implemented using smaller projects that are part of other CAPEX expenditures. This not require just a situation where you go from point A to point B, because it's a way of working that changes. You start from working in your departmental silo to a way where you go there with your whole organization. That requires a lot of cultural changes that need to be taken into consideration, but are well worth the effort. All right, so we started out with 3 points that we wanted to teach you using this webinar. We said, all right, a lot of companies start with implementing 4 steps to make sure that they become data-driven. But we actually saw that those steps are only taking you to an application-driven approach. Since those application-driven approach will yield short-term effects, people often have a false sense of being data-driven. What it means to be truly data-driven is that you have all the data present, not just a small portion of it, and that you're also aware that all of your data is up-to-date and reliable. And that's where a data-centric approach comes in. It will make sure that all your data is collected in one single place and distributed in such a way that you only get the data that's relevant to you at that moment in time. By working in one system, you will be ensuring that you're not working against each other, but with each other. Well, what's next? I've just been talking for the past, what is that, 30 minutes about a data-driven approach and how it can help you as a company. But we are very interested to learn more about you, about your company, and that's why we want to invite you to approach us, to ask us questions that are relevant to you. And then we can see if our way of working, our approach, the approach that we propose today, how much value that can be to you and how we can help each other. We are always interested to learn about our market, and we are very much willing to share our knowledge and experiences. So please reach out to us. And if you don't, we'll make sure to give you an email and make sure that we stay connected. All right. So we do these webinars on a monthly basis. We have some extra webinars as well, but our next big ticker is the one about how data makes maintenance activities more efficient and more effective. We're all about making sure that our assets are using as well as could be, as we generate as much profit from that, and as much safety and other things we like to consider, just to ensure that we are consistent. Well, we're going to focus on how data plays a part in that, with a specific highlight on maintenance. So we're now here in the maintenance, in a questions section, and I got a lovely assistant for that, who is welcome to share her experiences. Hey, Elaine, could you tell us more about the questions we received today from guests?
Absolutely, Thomas. Interesting presentation. and it did spark a couple of interesting questions. First question that I got in here is, it seems like you are offering a digital twin. What's the difference between your software and an actual digital twin?
All right, excellent question. I can see how the two are very much comparable. But what we primarily do is we collect your data in such a way that it's valid and complete. And using that data, you can of course make your own digital twin. But as opposed to other softwares who create digital twins, they're only doing that on a as-built version, an as-built version that's not being updated and in the future will no longer be relevant. What we do is make sure that your data is actually up to date and stays that way. I hope that answers the question of Mr. X.
Yes, absolutely. Wonderful, good. The second question that I got in here, or the second one that I'd like to address here is, okay, from a gentleman from abroad. Okay, I do understand that SAIS System puts the data at the core of the organization as a central entity, as you will, but do you also offer the opportunity to do any analysis on these data?
All right, so the gentleman is asking if we also provide analysis opportunities. Well, our focus is to make sure that your data is available organization-wide, that is up to date, and that you can start using it right away. In order to make sure that you have the best possible chance of making good decisions, we provide API functionalities so you can actually link it to any kind of analytical tool to your choosing. And based on your operations, those tools might differ, but your data will always be secured.
Yep, got another couple in. Answering one on chat, which is a real quick one. And the other one, okay, this is a very cool one. In the video, the LBC video, it was mentioned that there was a culture change wanted. So what's the most important cultural change for a site like you have shown in the video?
All right.
Can you answer that one, Thomas?
I can certainly try. All right, let's see. The thing is, I already mentioned this. The four-step program is usually developed so that departments are going to sub-optimize their own way of working. And that's not a bad thing, but that's the way their focus works. They're focused on their tasks at hand. They want to improve that. What Plant4D does is get rid of that focus and widen it on an organization base. So you have to stop thinking just about your little silo. Even though your silo is really important and imperative for the success of your operations of the organization, they're just one part of the success formula. In order to fully grasp what data-driven and data centricity can offer, you need to make sure that you do not just consider your work, but also the work of the departments working together on the same assets. And if we all do that, it's not just you giving extra energy to another department, but also the other departments giving extra energy to you, creating synergy and achieving higher results. I hope that answers the cultural question. It's all about working together in the end. And working together is hard, but I believe that is something that we all would like to do.
Well, it's also difficult because people usually do not like change. So it's a very valid question. But yeah, sharing your knowledge also allows for your other colleagues in different departments to share their knowledge with you, which would actually make you more smarter, gives you more knowledge, and also improves the collaboration and communication. So it's a very, very good question. And I'm happy
very
that you
valid.
answered.
Very good.
Let me see. As I'm talking to you, I also have to kind of look at the questions that come in. Okay, I have a cool one here. Would like to find out if, okay, somebody says here, I would like to find out if your solution has been applied to production plants. Case shown today is for tank farm, which is asset more straightforward to manage. So can this also be applied to other production plants?
Certainly, this is just one case, but we have many customers. We are not a young company. We are almost 40 years old. And in that time, or 35, I'm sorry. In that time, we've helped a lot of customers and also a lot of production plants with really complex systems which we help because we have a database of different kinds of opportunities, different kind of assets that can all be structured in our software. So it doesn't matter how complex your plan gets, as long as you have PNIDs to make sure it's all connected, you have asset data that comes with it, or you don't have PNIDs, but the PNIDs really help, or the 3D model also really helps. Making things visual is really the way to effective communication. But if you have those factors, you can build a digital representation, the digital truth of your assets. And it doesn't matter how complex your plant is. Elaine, I would love to hear from you, but you might have to turn on your microphone.
I have to unmute, eh? Sorry about that. There's a very cool question that I got somewhere in the beginning of the question session, and I wanted to hang on to hold on off to till the end. And it's from a lady from the UK who asked me, can the solution presented today, so the Plant4D solution that we're showing, ingest data from EAMS like Maximo or SAP? If yes, can the data sources be tapped? Wow. Cool one for you, Thomas.
That's a really easy one. Yes, of course. We work with an open database model. And why we do that? So that you can actually integrate all of those data sources. The only way you get value from a data-centric versioning of software is if you integrate all the database that are available, connecting it in such a way that it's always up to date, not just loose connections, but there's only one source of truth. So yes, short answer, yes.
Wonderful. Well, there were some other questions during the webinar that we already answered. I think we captured the most valid ones. And as anybody still has questions, keep on sending them in, and we'll absolutely respond to them in the chat function too. As for me, I'd like to finish up this part of the question sections, Thomas. So back to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Elaine. I think we had some really interesting questions, but we're now done with the question section, but we're also done with the webinar. I truly hope that this is not the end of our conversation. Let's continue this conversation afterwards. Reach out to us, and we will reach out to you and make sure that we generate something that's valuable to us both. And if that's a conversation, that's fine. If that's a demo, that's fine. If it's a full rollout of Plant4D at your site, generating you much profit and benefits, that's fine too. It's all fine. I hope to see you again, and thank you very much.